Inside the walls of Willendorf Castle is the main city of Willendorf. While its general layout is the same as the retail version, it lacks some of the grandeur of that version, which was covered in banners, shields and other regalia, whereas in the alpha, the buildings are generally much plainer.
Willendorf, proud defender of the realm with its warrior elite and mighty ruler, King Ottmar. The Lion Throne had once held my allegiance, but Willendorf's days of glory had passed. It was the last bastion against an unruly future.
In contrast to the previous area of Willendorf town, the internal rooms of Willendorf city start to show greater changes between alpha and retail versions. Although again, variations in items such as beds, tables, furniture and barrels are common. One such change involves the far left open house in the bottom row, which is a simple T-shaped room with some tables, some stacked barrels and a bookcase in the alpha. The retail transforms it into the extensive Willendorf library, complete with ornate carpets and designs. The Happy Cleaver goes from a butcher with a straight bar and some barrels into a more complex bar shape with shelves and a back room filled with prisoners. The top right open door is a fairly plain room with a bar and a table in the alpha, while in the retail it's given a sign identifying it as Annabelle's brothel, changes shape and gets another table and bed, along with a host of other decorations.
Victus! Ve Victus! Ve Victus! Ve Victus! Ve Victus!
In the centre of town, Grumble's Anvil gains more barrels, tables and decorations for the retail version. The pair of houses in the middle are both fairly plain houses filled with barrels in the Alpha. Both are cleared and given more decorations and furniture in the retail version.
Save Victus! Save Victus! Save Victus! Save Victus!
The Traveller's Pub has its bar shifted down in the retail and more decorations are added. The top right house changes from a square-shaped room with several bookcases and tables to a T-shaped room with one large bookcase, shelves and a chest. The mid-right house is another generic square barrel-filled delight in the Alpha, but has a bar table, bookcases and back rooms with a bed added for retail. The last interesting change of the interiors is the Willendorf Armory, which is empty, save for some banners in the retail version. In the Alpha, cupboards are in different places, and the bar extends all the way across because behind it is filled with weapons and armour, albeit unuseful versions.
Laugh again.
Moving on through the side entrances to the castle walls and progressing through the passages there reveals another pattern of generally similar rooms that have been modified and decorated for the retail. The initial chamber is in plain brickwork in the Alpha, but has its dimensions altered and banners and shields added for retail.
Save Victus! Save Victus! Save Victus! Victus!
The following basement-style room has a similar dimensional shift and banner addition for the retail, with some tables moved and other furniture removed.
Victus!
The next room takes us out along the ramparts of the castle walls. The map area is supposed to be a copy of that used for the city below, but there are a number of subtle differences, such as houses shifting, signs disappearing, and shadows altering. Interestingly, the retail version goes further with this, and the section used there only has the banners and extra decorations in the section Kain walks along. The rest of the view of the city is pretty much identical to the Alpha. Moving back inside the building takes us to the first of two sequential lever rooms. These chambers are virtually identical to each other, but mirrored. Again, retail has the rooms far more decorated with numerous banners and shields on the walls, as well as braziers in each corner of the room. Moving back along the other rampart takes us back to another basement-styled area. This area is cut down for later builds. In the Alpha, it's a full U-shaped chamber, but it's cut in half for the retail, along with the addition of banners and removal of furniture.
Victus! Victus!
The final room is a mirrored example of the first rampart trail room again, with more banners and decorations, and strangely tables in the retail version. Kain's progress in the castle takes him into a courtyard area which has a number of changes between versions. In the Alpha, it's a wide open space with a path and a single fountain at the centre. But the retail version hems the active area in building walls between the side towers. This effectively produces two further side courtyards with centrepiece fountains which are inaccessible. The open areas at the back of the castle are instead filled in with roofs, and the walls are widened. Aside from this, there are the usual banner changes, and the path where Kain had previously walked through are toned down, with only a single path visible in retail, compared to 3 in the Alpha. Moving inside the castle immediately triggers the Otmar cutscene, but the aftermath provides some interesting insights. The initial corridor is very similar to the retail version, but the retail version has more pillars and banners, and a vista point that is not present in the alpha. The alpha, meanwhile, has more side doors, presumably to give the appearance of an expansive castle, but they are closed and inaccessible, and the only side door that can be used is the one that heads to the Willendorf tunnel. Pushing up into Ottmar's chambers reveals a slight reshuffling of rooms. The retail version has two separate chambers here, a longer corridor and a square room occupied by Ottmar. But these are combined into a single map area in the alpha version. In any case, the longer corridor is much the same in both versions, but the Ottmar room is actually larger in the alpha and contains more enemies, while Ottmar himself is more mobile compared to the static seated figure seen in the retail version. There's also another mystery here, in that Ottmar's meeting seems to be considered by the game to represent something of a boss battle, and is labelled as such in the developer's level select, which has a will door under bosses for this meeting, and a bill door for William's battle. In contrast to the retail, where Will is the only one present,
Yes, the
and it leads to William's battle.
Mobius told me you would come.
The more mobile Ottmar and more guards perhaps hints at a choice of a confrontation, and you can enter without disguise activated. In this way it's actually possible to kill Ottmar, which was possible but much more difficult in the retail version. It's unclear if this is intended, a bug, or whether this was planned to have further story consequences. Backtracking to the side doors moves the action forward and leads us towards the Willendorf to STAHLBERG tunnel. The first area here bears the same layout as its retail counterpart, but is very much plainer, and is almost totally lacking any decorations. The retail removes the railings and adds pillars, banners, barrels and tables, as well as a save altar on the top level. Moving on takes us to the tunnel proper, and another area that's been completely altered. In the retail, the tunnel was a collection of 4 sewer-themed areas, including one which was a save altar, that connected Willendorf to STAHLBERG, but in the alpha, it's an extensive multi-area sequence, which has very little resembling its retail counterpart. The first area vaguely resembles the retail version, being a long wide corridor, but it lacks the roof beam, and adds several large rocks and an alcove with a lever to open the door. The next area is one of darkened earth rocks and colourful funguses, with equally colourful jelly enemies. The area codes for the following rooms suggest these may have ended up used in the retail version, but if that's the case, they've been greatly altered.
Play Victus!
In retail, this room was a long sewer area, with several alcoves for switches. But the Alpha has it as a long corridor with no other options, filled with spikes, stocks, and iron maidens. This is followed by a long marshy area, with several small balconies for leashes to throw projectiles from. Interestingly, this area has a small crack that can be entered using mist form and leads to a small room filled with power-ups, apparently planned as a secret. Moving on through the tunnel gives us another marshy balcony area, finished with a control mine puzzle. This is followed by an open marshy area with a central shooter pillar. A cave area with iron maidens and leashes comes next. Then an area with a series of fences and control mine puzzles.
Victus! Vive Victus! Vive Victus!
Before another area with stocks and Iron Maidens.
Save Victus! Save Victus!
The door in this last area is broken, but only one room remains in this map code, and its orientation suggests it will be next. This is a long, earthy corridor with marshy patches, shooters, and gaseous flowers. This room is again isolated from the other chambers, with one door broken and the other one leading to a crash. But it seems this was intended to lead out to the STAHLBERG battlement and the next major area. Join us next time as we explore the STAHLBERG resistance, the Dollmaker's house, the Nemesis Keep, and the Battle of the Last Stand.